Hey, yo, what's good, everyone? You already know it's your boy Flimmy Z, and today we're gonna have a little discussion here. There's this debate going on right now between the two games, Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2, and we're gonna figure out which one is better. We're gonna talk about different parts of the game. We're gonna go through different features, those features including gameplay, the meta, the music, the idols, the features, aesthetic, and single player, all that stuff. And we're just basically gonna figure out because this man Champ right here, and I'll well, actually, before we get into that, we got some guests in here because this isn't just a normal discussion that we normally have on stream with Champ and stuff like that. We got some special guests in here. We have Chara back there.
Hello.
And we also have Negus.
Yo, what's good?
What's good? Yeah. All right, so we're gonna basically talk about this because there's some some interesting discussion that's to be had. As of recent, people are they're becoming more interested in trying to figure out which is the better between the two games. As we all know, Splatoon, at the state that it's in right now, Splatoon 2, at the state that it's in right now, a lot of people aren't really enjoying the meta like that. So do you think it's more of a thing like that, or do you think it's just like in general? People like the games are just Splatoon 1 is just better. I think it's like that.
Now, I most certainly do believe, of course, that being the sequel it is, while it is not perfect, Splatoon 2 does edge out. Of course, I'm quite tired of the game if I'm being honest, in gameplay wise, but I do believe Splatoon 2 has its merits. It definitely has its negatives, but it does have the things that make it what it is. You get me?
Char.
I mean, I think this current meta is not very enjoyable. I think most people don't like it, especially since K52, but even a bit before that, there were starting to be problems. I do think it's been better in the past, but like, regardless, I think there are some problems exclusive to Splatoon 2 that make Splatoon 1 an overall better game. Not that Splatoon 2 doesn't have its strengths, but I believe Splatoon 1 is just the overall better game by my standards.
Yeah, when it comes to metas, I've never had 3 lasers coming at me in like 15 million different directions that I couldn't do anything about it. On top of that, I don't think something existed where like, it locates me, shows my position, and then on top of that, it sends missiles at me. So, that's all I have to say about that. But
You're right.
I will say that like I'm not gonna act like I will during this whole time. I will not act like Splatoon 1 was perfect. It wasn't. I just go off the basis that it was the first game, so it's the first test of like where everything was at. I do have gripes with the fact that like I do think that like some of the changes that they made in Splatoon 2, they could have done certain things with quick response self jump towards the end, but that obviously was the end of the game, and they were pushing Splatoon 2. So they weren't going to try to do any changes at that point. So yeah,
That's true. All right, so I've been a lot of the stuff, like a lot of the reasons as to why people genuinely say that Splatoon 2, that like they either say that this is the reason why they think it's better, or they say that it's at least what it has, but Splatoon 1 is still better. They talk about the quality of life changes and some like convenient features that Splatoon 2 has over 1. And I think in that case, I don't know, because when I think of quality of life changes that Splatoon 2 has made, let me think up an example. Like
Spectator mode, yeah.
the spectator mode is an example of one. There's
gear.
gear. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Gear is one of the biggest ones because
That is also an issue. That's a positive and an issue. We'll get to
it's
that
an
in a
issue.
bit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I definitely think the fact that they made a whole different mode for League is really good. I actually like the fact that they made League instead of doing Squad because of the rank thing. I actually like that change.
Yeah, you still affect your rank.
It's a really good change. I like that change. And one of the downgrades I hear a lot is the rank system in Splatoon 2 compared to that of 1. How do y'all feel about that?
X rank is most definitely I haven't played a lot of shooters, but I will say from what I see, it is the worst ranking system I've ever seen put into a shooting game.
Ooh,
It's
strong words coming from Champion.
it definitely is strong, but I believe it heavily because there's no way you have somebody like Kiver, Kara, Dude, Kyo in the same rank as little Timmy who bought the game 5 days ago. You feel me? It's a bit too easy to obtain. There's no real reward to it. I personally believe, and it's very very daunting because I used to boot up Splatoon 1. I'd play solo for hours. And while I would be a bit drained, I wouldn't feel exhausted. I wouldn't be damn near depressed, wondering if I should continue living. You feel me? So there's definitely that. I know Negas definitely has strong thoughts.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff on Ranked coming from Negas over there. I've seen a lot of the stuff that he's been posting on Twitter about it.
To be honest with you, one of the biggest things that I'll say, I won't act like Splatoon 1's rank system was perfect. I think that it also has to deal with like the number losses is probably the biggest like fault of it. Like I've said this before, we needed X rank in Splatoon 2, to be fair. The reason why is because we had Splatoon 1 for how long? How many years did we have Splatoon 1 for?
Wow,
like 3?
2 or 3.
3 years, I believe.
Yeah.
3 years. So like, in all honesty, could you imagine having the same system going to S+99 for as long as we've had Splatoon 2 for? So in actuality, it's actually like, I know this is gonna sound like, oh wow, he's flipping his position on this, but I actually have another reason why, is because of the fact that like, if you look at what S+ was, S+50, that was probably even worse. It just was a little bit more casual. You didn't have to worry about it. You got S+50 very easily, in my opinion. I don't think anybody had any problems with that.
You just have to play the game a lot.
Yeah, you just had to play the game a lot, and that was really it. My biggest gripe is the fact that like they go for quick matches without giving an alleviating option for people to play like a quick play. And the reason for that is because you can obviously tell that like the skill level is tapering off, and they haven't made an answer to like how to punish like those that are, I'm sorry to say, holding the rank back. I'm not trying to act like let me not even say this. I'm not trying to act like that I'm like, the best. I'm not like the best I've done. Like I've gotten a couple of top 500s. I've been able to maintain 2,500 back when it was like, meant to actually be something. But like my biggest gripe for this whole thing is that the fact that like, I can play 3 games. I hopped on last night, right? Mm-hmm. Why am I losing over 100 points?
100?
Over 100 points in 3 games. That's just wild to me. Like I don't care about like, obviously those that are like disgusting, but like you have to realize for you to do well in this ranking system, you have to be a part of like the 0.3%, which is literally Kiver. And like I don't think people understand like what it means to like for Kiver to be like in the top like 5, 10 or whatever it is, or like the players that get like like 0 that get 3,000, like that is like unattainable. So for you to have those people in the same rank as somebody that's possibly like S or S+, it doesn't make sense to me. Then when you look at like the Japanese side, and it's like, oh yeah, we lose like 5 points when we lose a match. We lose 2 points, 3 points.
Oh
and I do notice that. Yeah, I saw that.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
So I would rather personally more like I know somebody said it that like this is the worst system. I have to agree. Like bar none, I think this is like out of the shooters that I've played personally, I feel like this one is like the most handheldy. But I also do think that is a Nintendo feature, and that's something I can go over later. So that's all I have to say.
I mean, Splatoon 1 S Plus will always feel significantly better than X for like a higher skill bracket because it's not regional matchmaking.
It's not regional.
You get to play against Japan, so the odds that you're like if you're an S Plus 99 player and someone who can consistently win to maintain S Plus 99, you have to have 3 wins for every loss, which doesn't sound that bad. But remember, there's an actual ranking system. Like to be able to maintain that, you have to be pretty good. So you're going to be matched with Japanese players more often than you will against English players or Western players in general. That's just how it works. And Japan, where there's enough rank X players, the majority of the player base, to where they can frequently have 2,500, 2,600, sometimes even 2,700 power lobbies, then the system works fine. The problem is there's just not enough high XP people in the Western scene in general. And so rather than waiting to actually have lobbies that have the X power similar to yours, they're just like, oh, there's no other 2,600 players. So here's some 2,000 XP players. We're just gonna shove them in your lobby because it's been 4 seconds and you haven't found a match yet. That's a problem. And I don't hate it. Like, would I call this the worst ranking system on the planet? Maybe, but would I play a good ranking system if I had to wait 15 minutes for every game, like Overwatch DPS? I don't know, man. I'd say that's a little bit worse.
No, it's worse. No, Chara, I agree with you 100%. The funny thing, like, I agree with you, actually. I believe that this is the best system, like, for a more fun, like, level when it comes to, like, quick matches. Because when I play, like, everybody's like, you know, say, for instance, for Smash, quick play, it's horrible. Wi-Fi is absolutely terrible.
Oh,
it's
my God.
genuinely not worth it. But I would rather play quick play because I get quick matches. My only gripe is, if there's like, I wish it was just like, all right, cool. Make it so that, like, you know, if I'm not supposed to be in a rank with Chara, make it that way.
That's true.
If I'm not supposed to be in a rank with, like, you know, a person that's like under, like, there's no way that, like, you can say that everybody is having fun with this. Like, in my opinion, I feel like it causes a lot more burnout.
I agree. I do think, like, the solution I'd want to see is, like, I'm just saying, like, I think the X rank system is fine. There should just be an option to wait for better lobbies, and then you pretty much fix it. Like, you have a leaderboard. The X power system is way better than the bar system, and the bar system is way too complicated to talk about quickly.
Yeah.
But the power system is way better of handling this. What I want to see is Splatoon 3 just have X rank be the entire thing, like at between 1,000 to 1,200 is C rank, and then above that is B, like blah blah blah. Just do that. Have everyone on that X power system. But then actually have it so you match with people in the same X power region as you, like plus minus 200.
Exactly.
At higher up, then you can start to make exceptions, or if we were living in a perfect world, make it an optional thing. But I mean, I think the X rank system doesn't need to be overhauled. It just needs to actually care more about your X power, because I think that there is a preference for it because we see it in Japan. But if there aren't players for it, then they just throw out the idea of matching anyone near your power. They're just like, okay, here's 2100. And that's just how it is. But I mean, the Splatoon 1 rank system isn't perfect. It's very basic, but because it's basic, there isn't really anything super bad about it either. And because there's no regional matchmaking, you're gonna get good players. So it's just kind of...
So,
I mean, I wouldn't say either are good, but I would say Splatoon 1 is functional, and Splatoon 2 does not work outside of Japan.
Alright, so like what I'm getting is that the consensus is that like 1 is just like kind of the preferred one.
Yes.
Reason why I don't think a lot of people know is because of the fact that, like, it was work to get S+ if you were a new player. It wasn't like S+ is something that a lot of players did not see. Like, genuinely. Like, there were a lot of players, like, I've spoken to people at like LANs, they were like, yeah, I got X, and like I was very surprised. Like, you know, I tried to be an Aerospray main in Splatoon 1 and I couldn't do it. And then I played, I'm not joking with you. Like, they were like, I played Splatoon 2 and I got my Aerospray all the way to X. Like, it was so much better. So.
Yeah, I had like a similar experience. When I started playing Splatoon 1, I played sticks. And I got to S+ using sticks at the start of the game. It took me like 2 months from when I started playing Splatoon 1. But I found out that I could barely maintain S+. Like, I couldn't get higher than 50. And so I was like, okay, let's actually learn motion, because that's what everyone's saying is good. I watched the Squid Kids video that says motion is better, so okay, let's learn motion. It's like, oh, the rank system actually forces you to improve to rank up.
Yes.
It's not a thing in this. Like, I mean, it's a
like,
thing.
it's so simple too. Like, it's such a simple thing that you would think. Like, of course.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like the mindset that people should have in ranked is if you're not ranking up, there's something you need to change.
Yeah, you need to change.
The way Splatoon 2's rank system works is if you do the same thing long enough, you'll get X rank. Because the bar system just overall, like, is not... It's hard to lose your rank entirely, or at least drop a significant distance. And once you get an X, losing that rank is near goddamn impossible. So you have some people in rank X who do nothing but hold forward with the V-sploosh with the curling bomb, or arm missiles with an 89 in spawn, because they haven't been forced to adapt or not. And it hurts these players too, because they don't get to be forced to learn the video game if they want to rank up. They get to think that the way they play is good enough to reach the top rank, so why change it? So it hurts the player base too. It indirectly makes us have a worse player base, because we're not forcing people to learn to be good at the game. Just keep playing, you'll get it. So, I mean, again, it does it for a little bit. I know there's obviously people in A rank and S rank. I'm not saying everyone will get it, but obviously there's also a thing where the bar system does kind of excuse just playing over and over. It does not force as much adaptions as Splatoon 1 did. And I've even seen casual Splat-tubers in Splatoon 1 who have gotten to S+, have to learn over time. I've seen it with Whitehawk, who no one's gonna remember. So
Yo,
no, what you mean no one's gonna remember? Whitehawk is the GOAT. That's the GOAT. What you know about Whitehawk, bro?
Okay, you guys know, but the people watching this video who are Splatoon 2 vets have no idea who that is. So for recent example, Zach Scott took almost until the very end of his career in Splatoon to get S+.
Yep.
But he did, and it took a lot of time, and it took a lot of getting better at the game. But you could see actual progression in his gameplay to before he reached it.
No, you're right, Char. The thing I was going to bring up about Whitehawk is I used to be an avid Whitehawk watcher, actually. And funny thing about it, he was a Charger man. That's why I used to watch him at one point in time. The funny thing was when he wanted to reach S+, was he changed over to Brush. So he was like, yo, I have to change my play style. I have to do things different. I have to go about the game differently.
And then he ranked up.
And then he ranked up. It was so funny that you brought that up. That's such a good point, by the way.
And yeah, I brought up Zach Scott because it doesn't have to be a weapon thing. Zach Scott did it with Luna, and that's what he mostly played, if I remember correctly. So it's like a playstyle thing. Like, yeah, you could see examples from even casual players having to learn to get better at the game to rank up. Like, it's not a competitive only thing. That's just in general how ranking systems should work. You should have to get better to rank up. And Splatoon 2 doesn't always abide by that as much as 1 does. And that's part of why I like 1's better. Like, I can't stress enough how important a ranking system is to teach people how to play the game. Because that's the whole point of it. You rank up, you get better in specific aspects.
You learn from your mistakes.
Exactly.
Because they hurt.
Yeah, we could actually. And
that takes a lot of time, but I mean that's how it should be.
No, that's honestly exactly like it's Splatoon 2.
It's a journey.
It missed it so horrifyingly bad, and we're suffering because of it. Right? A lot of people. Splatoon 2 is a very team-based game, but because the rank system is the way it is, a lot of Western players have developed a very individualistic mindset. Right? So people don't learn to play as a team. People who don't learn how they're actually supposed to push. People don't know how to coordinate. And that comes into competitive. A lot of new competitive players don't know how to play the game. It takes them a very long time to play the game. And they're stumped. They're wondering, well, this was working in ranked. I could pull up. I could blitz a whole team. Why is it not working when I play calm? And, you know, it's because the game doesn't teach you how to play it. And I really hope Splatoon 3 does that.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. All right, so we could really like go on talking all day about just the rank system straight up, but let's move on to the gameplay / enjoyability of the two games. So, of course, as we know, since Splatoon 2 is a sequel to Splatoon 1, they're obviously going to make some improvements and some adjustments, you know, and all the stuff that they need to improve on from the first game.
Because honestly, in my opinion, that just did not happen. Really.
It didn't happen?
I really don't think. I really think the gameplay isn't like as good as it used to be, perhaps, because something that, you know, a lot of people like don't even think about is the fact that Splatoon 2 has a bigger motion delay than the first game.
That is true. That is true.
Worst motion.
Yeah, I don't understand how that even happened. There is more.
Like we're on a better console, but for some reason now the motion isn't as good as it used to be. So, you know, that's just how it is. So that's a huge thing for me, especially because my gameplay is very reaction based. Like I love to like, you know, hit crazy snapshots or whatever, but you know, sometimes I just can't do that. There's also the fact my Wii controller never like did the stuff my Pro controller did. And my Pro controller is 4 years old and it is crazy bad. I'm fighting motion drift, tick drift, every drift, Tokyo drift. You know, it's going crazy. Bro.
It is.
And it just affects my mood when I play the game because I want to focus on fighting the teammates. I don't want to focus on fighting myself, right? And my equipment. So it definitely does affect me. There's also, of course, map design, there's special design, there's weapon design. And I believe that Splatoon 1 definitely did somewhat have that just a little bit better. Kara's video going over how maps were designed, which I find absolutely excellent, right? It goes over this type of stuff. And Splatoon 2 definitely missed the mark with most of its original maps. They're very clustered, they force a lot of mid-fights, or there's just a lot of gimmicks towards them, wahoo, that just does not feel enjoyable to play on, right?
Yeah.
And that's just how I feel about it. So I definitely give this one to Splatoon 1. No debate for me.
The enjoyability, yeah, okay. So a lot of people say the enjoyability goes more to Splatoon 1, and that's like a question as like in Splatoon 2's like best state, as in like the best state of the meta in Splatoon 2. Would y'all say that Splatoon 1 still has it over Splatoon 2? in terms of what y'all would consider the best state of the game's meta.
So
Well, I didn't want
to agree to Jet meta, right?
I mean, hey, that's your opinion. Like,
I mean, I wanted to talk about gameplay a bit more before we go to meta, because
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's a little bit more to it than that.
Same
I mean,
here.
obviously there's a bunch of that stuff, but I think there's some things that we kind of forget about, which is there's a lot more depth given to weapons and weapon classes in the game. So we have unscoped chargers have charge hold. Rollers now have 2 flicks. Dualies, a brand new weapon class, has a roll option. Umbrellas have a shield. We have Squeezer has 2 forms of firing mode.
So now there's no
Dualies.
reaction.
We have Torpedo and Fizzy Bomb, which are basically multiple sub-weapons in one. There's a lot more depth added, which is something that I really felt was needed, because it's like Roller in the first game, you could either roll or you could flick at people. That was it. So if now jump flicks are different and then flicks on the ground are different, rolling now speeds up over time. We've now made our weapons feel more distinct. We did stuff in this game like Junior has a larger ink tank, Squiffer has no charging, has like no charge delay in the air, it's the same charge speed. Splatoon 2 went a long way to adding like actual depth and variety to a lot of weapons in this game, which would be great if the main weapons mattered, but they don't, and they suck, and their kits suck, and the maps suck, so it doesn't really... Like, these changes should be monumental, but they don't actually get to show themselves very well at all.
So
because that's just how the game feels. Like, Carbon has way more playmaking power in this game. It has faster rolling speed, so it actually can roll, like, Octobrush almost speeds, which is insane. Vertical flick over ledges is crazy. The weapon got added to so much, but in the first game, it got to have Burst Bomb and Exuka, and in this game, it gets to either have a kit with no sub-weapon or a kit with no special weapon. And so Carbon will feel better in the first game when it's a weapon with half the options it does in this game.
Precisely.
Because the weapon doesn't have an actual kit. Like, same thing, we have K-Machine, Fizzy Bomb, great combo synergy.
Crazy.
Doesn't have a special weapon.
Yeah, get splashdown. Yeah, you can't do anything with that.
So that sucks. Like, hits in Splatoon 1 were actually good. The only one that I would say is too good is V-Slosher with Burst Bomb. That's the only one that went too far. Like, hits in the first game were actually able to be good. And so main weapons will arguably feel better in 1, because not only are the main weapons better, but they have actual kits. So in 2, even though they've expanded on the main weapons, they've also nerfed the main weapon power another ground for a bunch of weapons, and then they've slapped on them half-assed kits that they can't do anything with. So it means that even though we've gotten a bunch of improvements to 2, and again, I'm not trying to downplay that because I think that they gave to weapons are great, it's hard to really feel any of that because the game doesn't really show a lot of that. Because you're still kind of dependent on specials because of the special design, map design, the lack of playmaking power. So, if you want to go off of, like, gameplay in terms of what they've added at a basic level, then yeah, Splatoon 2 has way more depth than Splatoon 1 in terms of main weapons. They made main weapons way more distinct. However, because there's no good kits and the main weapons were nerfed to the ground, I'm going to give this point to Splatoon 1, because Splatoon 1 you can actually do things. And so I don't really feel like I could do a lot with the main weapon, even with a main weapon that's more powerful, it still feels more limiting. So in the end, I still can't really say it's more enjoyable. I'd say I still have more playmaking power in the first game, even though 2 did more for weapons.
I definitely agree.
I was gonna get on that also, because I was gonna say that you guys missed a lot when it came to like the gameplay aspect of like, you know, what they added with like the different weapons that they added in the game. From a competitive standpoint, I actually get what Chara means. But from a solo perspective, I would probably have to say, like, you know, now it's a little bit different because of K52. Obviously, like, everybody uses it, K-Pro, whatever. Like, I think, like, whatever, right? But I think from a standpoint when you're looking at, like, you know, weapons like Squeezer, tech, like, I know that some people hate it, but, like, you know, say, for instance, fast bubble pops, little things like that, I thought that were, like, you know, nice additions to the game when it came to, like, your specials and how, like, you know, things worked. Dualies, like being able to, like, you know, the first game was you step in ink, you die. Literally, dualies were the weapon that, like, basically broke that out the window. They were at one point were able to, like, run scot-free, obviously, until MPU came around.
And then we took that away.
And they took that away, basically. So, like, it was one of the it literally, dualies, like, broke the rules of the game, and it was like one of the cooler concepts of it. So I would have to say from a gameplay standpoint, when I look at like, the weapons, this is one of the things I always say for, Splatoon 2, Splatoon 1. I think that they did a great job with that. Like, obviously it took time to like build with that. But from like, you look at like all the weapons that they've added, say for instance, and like, sometimes it's bad when like you had like a weapon like ballpoint basically kind of encapsulate like, maybe like a Hydra. But that's a different topic and that was a different time also. But you look at like, Nautilus. Like, I would have to say that besides GoobTuber, and maybe you can make an argument for Glugas, they haven't released a bad new weapon. Like, has there been a bad new weapon?
Yeah, you kind of make a good. I mean, Dapple's kind of. Maybe
Rainmaker, I can argue. There was a point in time when they were like actually, the Nouveau Dapples, like they were good.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not saying that like all the kits are great, but they were at least usable. So I would have to say.
Sorry. It's hard to say because at the start of the game, not every weapon had a kit available, so some weapons were niche. Like, V-Machine was a Ray niche because there weren't Ray weapons in the game.
Yes.
I feel like, to be fair, Dapples were kind of the same thing.
Don't get me wrong. I will say that, like, yes, drip feed, it's a recency, like, it's more of a drip feed bias of the fact that it had time to, like, flesh out. I'm more talking about the whole thing. So I get what you mean. Yeah, so that's where I'll leave it there. We can talk about the maps after, but like when it comes to my enjoyability with that, I'll be very honest with you. I was an Elater main and I was a Charger main. So coming into this game, they absolutely gutted that weapon.
The weapons.
Oh my god.
Gutted that weapon.
It's crazy.
It's not even like it was from. I remember I started playing Chargers and I was just like, yo, the motion control feels like absolutely off. And I just could not like wrap my mind around that. There's not just me. There's many players that have felt the same type of thing. One that brings to mind is Rizbit. Like I know that absolutely drove him in like crazy. And like for me personally, it actually like really hurt like my mindset with the game in the beginning because I was just like, yo, like what did they do to Chargers? Obviously Chargers got better, but I feel like that still like was like spam and there are amazing Chargers. But yeah, so that's just my point with that one.
I hear what you're saying, man. I hear what you're saying. Because I actually used to be a Charger player too. That used to be my main in S1. And I came into this game and something felt very off. And so I immediately just picked up shooters because of that. Because I'm like, I'm not going to suffer. Because I want to play this game competitively. I'm trying to do something.
That was the same thing.
It's not going to help me.
And I have to give them the gear system. The gear system, they made it a little bit better. It's still not good. I don't care what anybody tells me, but it's better than Splatoon 1.
It is made completely.
It's a step up, but it's
so
like
inconvenient for no reason. Yeah.
I need 60 chunks.
I mean, quite literal, barely better.
I never understood why they did that. Was it like because like they're gonna get the gear either way, so why go out of your way to make it like incredibly inconvenient? Yeah.
People are obsessed with Pures in the first game. Even
they still are. They still are. It's not like a change.
I don't know. I mean, I'd say that's an improvement, but it's not like...
It's not like a perfect improvement.
It's not the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Flat hacks. So,
one more thing with the gameplay. Do y'all think part of the problem is like the natures of the two games? Like, as we all know, Splatoon 2 is very special focused, is heavy special focused. And like, as we were talking about earlier, normally things in this game are only done through the use of specials. Do you think that invalidates main weapons such as Chargers and stuff like that?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Blasters are unplayable now because of armor. Now there are other factors as to why blasters are unplayable, but armor is a huge reason why nobody wants to like actually use blasters, because you can direct somebody through armor. So now you just have to play out of your mind to get like this wicked snapshot, but because somebody clicked the R stick, you just have to hold that. Right? You literally just have to hold that. You did a 360 wicked cool Twitter clip could have just happened. That's not happening anymore because I clicked the R stick fast enough. So now you just can't use that main weapon. There's also the fact that armor in general, just like it's a huge impact on the game and how people play the game. Because a lot of people, they literally change their whole playstyle when they have armor versus when they don't have armor. There's also missiles that just literally force you to move. You have no say in any engagement. Missiles get popped, you can't hold a space anymore. You just have to give the enemy that piece or you just die, right? And then there's Booyah Bomb, etc. There's a bunch of specials that force your movement compared to the specials that, require skill and don't give you as much. And that's going to be when we get to the meta talk, right? But I definitely do believe the natures of the game are a huge impact on how people view the enjoyability.
I think that people cried about invincibilities way too much, in my opinion, but that may just be me being an E-liter main in Splatoon 1. Like, I feel like after a while, I feel like most people understood how to get around it. Yes, Bubble was stupid. I'm not going to act like it, but it was mostly just Zimmy. And I feel like that just came to at the end of the day that they weren't really making any more changes and the game was developing. But at the end of every game's going to have a weird meta. We're seeing it right now, where, like, you know, weapons come out of nowhere. So, like, one of the things that I will say is for enjoyability when it comes to specials, I had never liked the pop and go specials. I was always fine with the thought process of, like, you know, echolocator going away, because of the fact that, like, you know, you kind of pop it and then you know where everybody is on the map. Like, literally you just see where everybody is. But then they kind of like took that and like put it on steroids with like, they're like, all right, you know what, you want this like amazing, like, you know, ray. All right, cool. So like it sucked in the beginning. Now we're gonna add a bigger laser onto it, and then on top of that, you can sit in the spawn. Gladly they got rid of that.
Yeah, bro.
Gladly they got rid of that, and then you can see the player through the wall. Also, by the way, and then they took missiles where like it was like, all right, cool. Like everybody like missiles are bad. I saw those things and I was just like, they keep buffing them. It's gonna get worse over time.
Bro, I could see it happening.
It was like, I was just like, yo, you can look back in my VODs. I've said this since the beginning. I was like, yo. Then they were like, give it movement, and I was like, why?
Can swim with it.
I will say though, I like Booyah Bomb. I think that Booyah Bomb was like, if you want to say like the two ink strokes, I think that was like a great like update in my opinion. It was a good idea that they cut it the health in half. Yes. And then I will also say that I think that Hammer is a really cool idea.
I love Hammer. It's probably my favorite special in this game. Hammer and Inkjet. I love them to death.
But if I had, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, but if I had to choose, I would personally, I would choose what we had in Splat 1 for specials over what we have right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, you guys are like, yeah, B and Stamp are cool. Yeah, the last two specials added are better for a reason. It's like they've had a bit of time, and now they've learned a little bit more about specials, so they start to make them a little bit better. I think Splatoon 1 specials are bullshit. I think Splatoon 2 specials are bullshit. I think the difference is when you get bullshitted in Splatoon 1 by a leader with stupid range, a Zuka shot across the map, a bubble in your face, you come back in 5 seconds.
Fair.
If you get bullshitted and your team is wiped in Splatoon 2, you just lose the game.
You just gotta hold that.
So, I mean, they're both bullshit. But the difference is, one is like, damn, that's dumb, and you're back to playing the game. Yeah. And the other one is, damn, that's dumb, and you've lost. Or at least you've lost a substantial amount. If you want to win games in Splatoon 1 QR meta, you have to win, even in solo queue it goes like this, when people actually, because people rank QR and solo is the same thing. You have to win multiple team fights in a row, or your push is going to 70, because they're back already. Like, you couldn't just depend on specials, because sure, you can crack and get a kill, and that person's back in 5 seconds, now you have to fight them without your Kraken. So hopefully you can win that fight, and that's why special spam was absolutely dog shit at the end of the first game. You could have an Aerospray Kraken farm, but that's only gonna win one fight, and winning one fight is tiny in this game. And that's also why I hate stuff like the BNS QR and invincibility restrictions, because QR is a necessary evil. Like, Splat 1 is so extreme that you needed quick respawn, because it's the only thing that balanced everything else out. So like, it's the extreme to balance the extremes. If you take away QR, Kraken is now a fight winner, and then the game feels terrible. So,
I have to ask you, Chara. I have to ask you then. So, if you say that, so would you say that armor is the equivalent of QR in this game?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think any one thing in Splatoon 2 right now is anywhere near as extreme as QR is. And QR is also kind of half the picture, because I mean, if Splat 1 QR existed in this game, 52 meta would not exist. Like, straight up.
Okay.
We can afford to now run at the 52 continuously. It is now it's way easier to run QR shots. Like, some people do QR shots and actually do decent with the way they are right now. And I'm not saying to bring back Spawn and QR, because Spawn and QR is dumb. I'm saying if we're gonna have a game where specials are extreme, and main weapons are extreme with damage up, then yeah, you do need QR. QR was needed for Splatoon to thrive. If you take away QR, then Splatoon falls apart to this special spammy bull crap because the specials are just way too good. E-Leader randomly picking you off across the entire stage will ruin your day because you've lost the game off it.
Yeah.
In QR meta, E-Leader is not even a top tier, it's just a good weapon. Because E-Leader getting 2 picks across the stage, that's a few points, nice. You have to do more. And I mean, I'm not trying to say Splatoon meta is perfect either, because it's not. And I mean, especially if you wanted to play like a more supportive playstyle or a defensive playstyle, you kind of got screwed. But the one thing it's had is it just reduced the amount of, quote, bullshit in the game. Because while it existed, it didn't do as much. Splat 2, it's like, what are you going to do? Half the specials in the game force you to move. Like, they're not as extreme as Kraken.
Okay, I see what you mean.
But there's less counterplay. Like, Kraken, you could get Kraken, you could maybe tame it. It's a 9 out of 10 chance. But it can happen. There is a little bit of counterplay. The problem is there wasn't enough. Splatoon 2 is, there's no counterplay and it's not extreme. It doesn't feel good to use, and it feels shit to play against. If you get missiled, you don't have an option. You have to move. There is no unique counterplay. You move. So it doesn't feel good. And then on top of that, if it wins a fight, you're screwed for another, like, 10 seconds. So, I mean, that's the combination of problems. Like, I mean, the difference with Splat 2 specials is just that the whole game revolves around them. In Splat 1, you can't revolve around specials because you'll get ran over by a QR team. So it kind of removed that playstyle as an option if you reached a certain skill level. We haven't really seen a solution like that in 2 because the main weapons aren't good enough to win things without QR. Like, you can't run over a team before they can get specials reliably enough because not enough good things can move forward. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that because, again, the more, like, mechanics-heavy specials in this game, for example, Jet, Hammer, and I'd even say Boggle to a degree, they're very easy to counter. There's insane counterplay to these specials. You want to fight a Jet? Look up. Or you just space them. Or you just call your charger friend to take care of it. You want to take care of a Hammer? Shoot directly at it and just, you know, don't be scared. You want to counter a Baller? Throw 2 bombs, right? These are specials that require a lot to do, but they're very easy to shut down, right? Compared to, again, the pop and goes, which I really do not like. I hated these since, like, day 1, and I knew they'd become problematic. But it's just insane to think about that the game has gotten to this state, really.
Yeah. And I'm hearing a lot of, for Splatoon 2, I'm hearing, like, more of the meta being weapon-focused and 1 being an ability that is, like, being brought up consistently. So what I'm getting at is, do y'all think that Splatoon 1's meta is more free and lets you use more weapons than that of Splatoon 2's meta?
No.
No? Oh.
No, there's a very limited top tier. Splatoon 1 is not diverse at all. If your weapon's not good at fighting or can't run QR, then yeah, it's not going to be good. So, I mean, no, it's not diverse. The thing it has, though, is the weapons that are good
They're fun.
are good. Like, they feel strong. Splatoon 2 has 1 actual good main weapon, and that's Squeezer. Nothing else is actually good. Splatoon 2 has a bunch of diverse weapons, but all of them are still weak. Splatoon 1 is like 8 good weapons, but they all feel good.
Okay.
Yeah, like, no, like, I feel like in what's called Splatoon, like, in Splatoon 1, I feel like you could at least pick up a weapon and be like, I'm gonna main this, and I find this fun. So, like, personally, as I said, if you were an E-Leader main, I feel like if you went to support role of, like, say, for instance, if you played Zimmy, I was like, all right, you know what, whatever, this is still fun. I, like, you know, I throw a disruptor, I bubble, I kill somebody. Cool, like, it's all good. But if you mean to tell me that I have to move over to play Junior or, like, be an NZAP, like, you know, like, paint ground, run around, like, AFK gaming, like...
Oh, no.
I'm good. Like, I'm very much good. And I saw that from a while. Like, you know, the funny thing is, for me personally, like, I've said a lot of these things have been here since the beginning, but a lot of people just didn't like... You could have played Junior in the beginning and it would have been the same outcome. Obviously, Tri-Slosher was better. Like, I'm not going to argue that. But you could have done the same things. And then once they added, like, the baby bottle pop to it, it just made it even, like, you know, crazier. So
yeah, and that's actually like the same thing with 1. Like, Junior was a plenty good bubble spam weapon in 1, but like, why would you play Junior? Because Zimmy and Cherry exist, and they're better. So Junior didn't get played, even though Junior didn't really get nerfed, because there were good main weapons. And it could be the same thing if there were actual good armor weapons. we wouldn't see Junior. We're even seeing less of Junior now because people are realizing, hey, wait, Zap's a decent main weapon. Why are we playing Junior that isn't a good main weapon? Now imagine that, but if there were like 5 other good armor weapons, we wouldn't see Juniors.
Exactly.
No.
It makes sense, yeah.
Like if Dolphin HD was actually like, not 200, what is it, 220? Or is it 210 now? If it wasn't that
220.
much, of course it does paint crazy good, but it's the fact that it requires so much special to get your armor. And obviously people are gonna play the one that requires much less, so that's why they're going to Zap, But the other thing, the fact that they have the exact same kit, so it makes, and this, of course, the skill difference, because it's much easier to play Zap than H3, just because of the sheer accuracy you need to have with one of them. But it's just that, obviously you're going to want to use the easier one, obviously you're going to want to use the one that takes less time to get this incredibly broken special weapon. So, there's clearly going to be that bias.
Okay.
So I guess we're all enjoyability as a 1 then.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think
I was
we've all reached this
trying.
conclusion.
I was really trying. I was trying to be.
Oh no, man.
I mean, again, I think we've all said this at some point, but like 2 has made solid improvements.
They have something.
Like, yeah.
They take steps back. It's like it doesn't make
Splatoon 2
sense.
did steps forward, yeah, but it's like it's not even that they did a step back, it's just it can't shine. Like if Splatoon 3 is a more main weapon focused game, or specials don't force everything, then all of a sudden all these changes they did in 2 are gonna actually be able to show how nice they are, and it's gonna feel amazing. Like right now there's a bunch of positive changes that have not been able to show just how good they are, and they're never going to in this game. So we kind of have to wait. So I mean, positive steps, but they can't show themselves, so 1 will feel better anyway. That's basically where it is.
Oh man.
Alright. Meta time? Meta time, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Okay.
Oh god.
The long-awaited.
I think-
long-awaited.
Meta is kind of a complicated one.
It's hard.
And while I'll be like the Splatoon 1 for this again, because Splatoon 1 has a
definitely
better
would also
meta.
be
I've kind of talked about it a bit. I will say Splatoon 2 at one point had a better meta than Splatoon 1 in 3.2.
Yes.
There was a good
Yes.
balance,
Yes.
there was enough good specials in the game, there was enough main weapons in a good state, because back in the 3.0s we were actually giving main weapons buffs. 3.2 is when we gave stuff like the squid for charging in the air, etc. We started to see a good diversity of stuff there. And it was also not completely special dependent. Like stuff like Armor Jet was the main thing right then. Or not even Armor Jet, just Jet in general.
Yeah.
Was really good then.
While they're also
But you
used
could
to be
still,
playable back
yeah,
then,
you
there's
still
also
could
that.
make plays with main weapons. It was in a pretty solid spot. And I'd say that meta isn't perfect either, because no meta is perfect.
No.
Some specials were a little bit too good. Playmaking power was still a little too low. But overall, it was a much more balanced game where a variety of roles could do well. So I would say it was better than Splatoon 1's. I mean, if you're an aggressive player, you'll like 1's better, but 2's overall has more strengths. And that was the first meta where we started to see, hey, Splatoon 2 is a really diverse game. Like, there's so many good weapons in this game, and that's the main thing Splatoon 1 didn't have. So all those strengths got to shine. And then we added MPU weapons, and then we nerfed all the other good weapons, and then those strengths fell out a fucking cliff.
Oh.
And then they gave us small point. We got a little bit of hope. They went a bit too far with damage up. They took out the damage up. They made short range mode fine. Ballpoint was in a good spot. Then they gave it like 4 nerfs to kill it anyway. And then we lost our only like last savior. So and now we're in this state. And it's like
the terrible state. I would definitely say the terrible
and
state.
nowadays, even then, this meta still has strengths. If you like weapon diversity, then 2 will still be the better game for you. Because there
Yeah.
are more viable weapons in 2 than 1. If you really like team coordination, and team coordination was important in both games, then 2 is going to feel more fun. I truly believe if you consistently play with a group of 4 people you're coordinated with, then Splatoon 2 can feel a lot better than 1. If you really like that coordination-based aspect, if that's what you want out of a game, then yeah, 2 has that. 2's current meta still has strengths, and it's important to acknowledge it. That being said, if you don't like specials moving you all the time, if you can't consistently play with the same group of 4 people, if you like doing things with your main weapon and without having to depend on coordination or specials, then the game's gonna feel worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does 2 meta have strengths over 1? Yes. Is there a good reason some people would prefer it over 1? Yes. Is it overall better for the majority of people? No.
Okay.
Let me just say this one thing. If Ballpoint had stayed as broken as it was, even though I know it wouldn't have been healthy, I would have given it to Splatoon 2. Reason why?
I mean, ballpoint with damage was too crazy, but so,
It was
I'll
too
give you that.
crazy. I agree with you. I know, but it was the most fun I've ever had with this game. I'll tell you this right now, hands down. Like the way that I was slapping people in solo because they just didn't realize like it could do whatever it wanted, and I know it needed to change. I agree. Like I'm not saying that it didn't, but it was the most. It reminded me of like what I played in Splatoon 1. Like obviously it's not the same thing as E-liter, but it just reminded me of a weapon being overpowered again. And that doesn't fit in this game. And I get that.
Trying to be the ballpoint bully.
So like, but when I look at this game and I'm just like, it always eludes me. Like I have fun watching people play Splatoon. Like, don't get me wrong. I have fun watching competitive, like high level Splatoon, but it just feels weird to me that like, we don't live in a world where like Inkjet isn't somewhere like at the front of the pack, like getting like sick kills and like doing things like, you know, being able to like move freely and being able to be used. It feels just very weird that like you can't have a diversity with that anymore. I don't know. Like I feel like in a world where like you at least what was it? It was at like the second worlds where like I think they had Kyo and he was using like Custom Blaster.
Yes.
And like literally you see that last moment where he almost got the shot on the tower and like he just didn't get it. But I just like I look at those moments and I'm just like, wow, that's something that like whenever I see like, you know, those 6 shots, there's something that like resonates with me. Whenever I look at somebody's dope montage, they always have like the, you know, they're jumping back out of their inkjet animation and like doing something crazy. Yeah, obviously you can use it in solo if you want to, like I understand that. But like when it comes to like a competitive aspect for like the meta, personally I would have liked to see that more. I'm not gonna act like Splatoon 1's meta was perfect because like if you're a sniper main, you probably didn't like the QR stealth jump meta. I mean, you may have learned to adapt. I learned to adapt by playing other weapons, but I will say that like if I didn't remember hating the Luna meta, I'll say that I don't remember hating like, you know, feeding and just like, you know, it just felt like, you know, you could do things with your like the weapons that you were using. Personally to me, like I will say that like the one meta that like literally just automatically just makes me give Splatoon 2 the L is the Stingray meta, personally.
Oh yeah, Ray meta is
The days of Ray being in spawn is absolutely atrocious. I remember tower control games where you literally just like you just wouldn't hop on the tower when the game was about to end because you know GG Ray was gonna go down. Literally made no sense. You're about to get swarmed by the enemy team.
I look back now is that like I used to argue with like people on podcasts and stuff about this, and I'm just like, how did you defend Stingray at all? Like there was no like counterplay.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything about it. You just
had to hold it.
Yeah, you had to deal with that.
Big beam that shot through walls, killed everything in like 3 seconds. Like there's no counterplay, and you couldn't even touch it.
The main as someone who had to deal with people arguing, the main thing at the time was like, oh, but you can just run Stingray and do it yourself. And I'm like, that doesn't make it any better.
That's not counterplay.
Like, yeah, you're right. Both sides could do it, but like, it still sucks for both sides.
It's insane.
Like, that's the only argument people had. And you could argue that about literally anything. Oh, K52 meta is horrible. Oh, just run a K52. That's great, but I still hate playing against 52, even if I play it. So this didn't really help me at all. So shoot, we're stuck in the same fucking place.
Nah, yeah, I like there was a point in time where like I could have looked and been like, wow, like Splatoon 2's meta might have actually. Like, even though it didn't favor me, like, whatever, I was like, you know, when dualies were, like, cool and they were doing all these, like, crazy things, and it was like, yo, this game might actually, like, you know, be insane. And then after a while, it just started to slow down. And then it kept slowing down, and I was just like, yo, what is happening? So I don't know where that was, like, exactly. You could say MPU, but I feel like it happened before that. But I for more than half of the game, I feel like more people were just like, yo, this is like every meta has been, yo, what is going on? Why is it like this? and like, when will you make a change to this? And then they don't make a change when like it's enough. Like, you know, say for instance Baller, like right now, right? You look at most of the weapons and you're just like, all right, you can probably do something about Baller. Obviously they're not going to. Yo, Inkjet is kind of crazy on Tenatech. Are you guys gonna change it? And it took them a while to actually get that done. So I don't know. And there's certain weapons they can do that with now. Like they just haven't done it, and they're probably not going to. So yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're getting positive changes like a bit more recently. Like 5.5, every change in 5.5 was great.
Yes.
The problem is they're tiny changes and they're way too late. Like at the pace we're getting changes right now, the meta's not going to be fixed by the time 3 comes out. Like it's just not happening. Like yeah, we made K52 190 and reduced its paint range by a whopping literal 1%. Is that a positive change? Yes! That's good! That nerfs K52. Is it enough? Fuck no! Why did we give CDS like 3 different nerfs? We made that thing 220, we made rolls use 8%, and we gave it 25% more jump RNG. Where the fuck was that with 52?
That's what I'm saying.
52 was used more than CDS in its prime! And it got slapped! Well, CDS got literal beat up in the street. Like,
It did. It did.
like if I don't know how CDS players aren't just screaming their heads off at this right now. If I were a CDS player, I'd be like, bro, what the fuck is this?
Honestly.
I think it's because of the movement mostly that they still have. Like,
That's
bar none.
It's an insane main weapon.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, so it's like, yeah, we're making positive changes, but it's too little too late. We've been nerfing main weapon power since like 4.0, so it's been like over 2 years of removing any playmaking power that existed. Like, to put things in perspective, it'd be easier to fix Splatoon 2 to revert to 3.2 and make changes from there than it would to make changes on the current version. You would have to do significantly less if we reverted to 3.2 and then made changes. That's how bad we're in right now. Like, it's easier to just go back 2 years of patches and make changes from there. So I mean, yeah.
Almost certainly.
Again, meta could be enjoyable for some people, but right now it's just we're in way too big of a hole.
I'm gonna have to give it to 1. I'm sorry.
Most certainly. I definitely give it to 1 to myself because I my teammate Gray, right? He used to be the charger for Signal Lags. He literally stopped playing the game because he got so tired of Incarnate, right? So he got tired of armor. He got tired of playing.
Oh yeah.
And of course, Gray's the charger. So Gray would have to he have to do so much just to hit a shot, and then you're like, I tapped the R stick, so you're gonna have to hit me again. But by the time you hit me again, I'm like on the other side of the map, and I already have my special, and I'm gonna counter you. You know, it's very demotivating from a mechanical standpoint.
It's just not fun.
Yeah, it really isn't, and that's why so many people have stopped playing the game. I'm personally also in that boat. I stopped playing competitive because I play L3. I don't really like playing L3 in this meta right now because I feel a lot of weapons counter it pretty well. That's just me, right? In my opinion. Armor is of course a thing. A lot of people don't play unless they have armor. I don't want to deal with that. Special spam, 10 missiles. It's depressing in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like once everything went to like complete special spam, like I saw it in solo from like, you know, the beginning, but once everything went to complete special spam with like missiles to like armor, I feel like that's when like my enjoyability just like went out the window, and I was just like, yeah, I can't take it anymore.
Now, and we're talking about special spam right now. Me and Flemmy are in a game fighting four rain users on Kelp Dome. 4 rain users on Kelp Dome, and it's literally just Bloody Mary all over the map. It's insane.
So, alright then. I guess, alright, so our first hour is officially gone down. We've talked about a lot of gameplay aspects, game-specific stuff, but now we're going to move in somewhat of a different direction and actually talk about like some other features of the game itself, such as the music.
Okay.
So, of course, I don't know if y'all like play with music or if y'all don't play with music. I know there's like a huge, like a lot of people don't like playing with, and for some reason I will never understand this for Splatoon, like for either games. Why don't they have an option to just have the effects on and the music off, like they do in Smash, like they do in Pokken Tournament. They have that feature. They have a mixer for what you can do for that, but that's like a different thing. But the music between the first two games, obviously we know Splatoon 2 has much more music because it has the Octo expansion and all that stuff. Splatoon 1, lots of people say that they actually enjoy Splatoon 1 soundtrack better than 2. What is y'all take on that?
I agree.
I don't agree.
Okay.
Well, at all. I don't agree whatsoever.
All right,
So-
let's go.
Can we divvy it up? Like, is it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
okay? So like actually like because if I'm being realistic with you, I would say that like because of the Octo expansion when it comes to music, like I feel like obviously it blows it out the window with the Octo expansion. Also with like some of the music that they've done with like Splatfest, right? If I'm saying this right, I think that that's like a really great job. But when it comes to like the solo games, I like am ready. Once I hear that trumpet, I'm ready to start banging my head through like the what's it called,
Bro.
I think the band's called Ink Theory, and I know what you're talking about.
Bro,
I love
the
most of the bands except for that one. Right?
Do you like that song? Do you like that song? First of all.
No, I don't.
Okay, I was about to say.
The one band I personally like don't like that much. This feels like mid tier for me.
Yeah, you're talking about the 2.0 Mako Mart song, right?
Yeah, those songs that they brought.
I don't hate that one, ironically.
I love.
I don't like it, but I don't hate it.
I'm not trying to hear that in my Splatoon game.
I like most of the songs, most of the bands. I love them. I love Wet Floor. I love Bottom Feeders. The Chirpy Chips. Most of them for Splatoon. I love how it expanded like the overall like taste that we have, because most of Splatoon 1 is just it's metal, it's pop, you know, that type of stuff, right? And it follows that in a very like narrow line. Like Squid Squad, that's the band that like made Incoming.
No, that was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first band. And it's EDM, pop, and metal. Like those are the three main ones. But for Splatoon, there's like so much variancy and so much different sounds that I find myself being lost in it. I hum Splatoon songs, Splatoon 2 songs.
And like in my opinion, really, like because for one, I'd say that the songs that of course Splatoon 2 has more diversity when it comes to the music, like much more than 1 did. I would go as far as to say that 1's like music added after the game was released in the DLC, or just the updates, the free updates, they were much better. I'd say definitely much better than the ones that they added into overall. Because
because we got Blitzit. We got Blitzit for what, 3.0? Then we had got Entropical for 4.0.
Yeah.
I definitely two in my opinion. Like Chirpy Chips in 1 is good, but I feel like they perfected their art in 2. Right?
Because they brought like what? How many? I think like 3 total new bands. I'm not sure if that's exact, but for the music in Splatoon 2. I don't know, like I just don't find the music as like, because for one, I don't think that there's a single multiplayer like song in 1 that I genuinely dislike. Not a single one. All of them.
I agree with that. There's no bad Splatoon 1 multiplayer song.
But in 2, I can definitely find like 2 or 3 that I'm just not rocking with at all.
Yeah, when the Ink 3 comes on, you want to turn off. So
I'm not trying to go into my solo queue pain and hear a trumpet blaring in my ear before the match. Like, nah, like I ain't about that.
That's how I feel.
I mean, okay. So I think Splatoon 2 has a pretty similar pattern with its music. The 1.0 and 2.0 music isn't very good, and then 3.0 and 4.0 they started to add actual good songs. Yeah, Splatoon 2 has more diversity. Sure. But like half of those aren't good.
That's
so
true.
I don't care.
That's how I feel exactly. That's how
I will give props. There are some diverse songs out there that are good, and I think Splatoon 2 has more diversity. But would I take the diversity and half the tracks be bad over less diverse, but all the tracks are solid with some being really good? No.
I see where you're coming from.
Now that's for multiplayer. Single player is actually harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Yes, Octo Expansion is good, but I actually yesterday, while I was waiting for lobbies in Splatoon 1, re-listened to the single player music from Splatoon 1, all of it. And it was much better than I remembered. Not all of it is good, there's some bad songs there, but most of it is actually a lot better than I thought. That being said, I mean, Splatoon 2 just has way more music. You have Octo Expansion and the base single player. Marina and Pearl have a bit more music than the Squid Sisters, I believe. And what everyone will forget about in this entire time, if I don't bring it up, a Salmon Run also has music. It's not great. I think the Salmon Run music is the most average thing. Like,
see,
I don't
I'm
care
not the
about
only
any
one
of it.
that thinks that. I'm not the only one. See, because
Salmon
people
Run
gas it
music
so
is
much.
incredibly average. None of it is memorable whatsoever, but none of it is bad. None of it is bad, but it's like none of it is good either.
I did not think that there was anything special about the Samurai music, and people
it's
would
just
like
it's a perfectly passable soundtrack, but I don't find anything about that. So I mean, I think 2 just has a way more inconsistent variety of songs overall than 1. So
a note of inconsistency, I will definitely agree. Even though
that's where I would put it right now.
The more does have a lot, because even though there's more and there's like, because with more there's bound to be misses. But what we have that hits, it's. And that's,
I would say if we're including single player, then 2 would have a slight edge. But if you were to rank it on pure multiplayer only, then I would give it to 1. So I mean, I guess as an overall, this would go to 2, but barely. And it's very much because Octo Expansion exists.
That's what I would say also. I agree with you. I would have to give it to 2, sadly. But yeah.
Idols. I don't have too much to say here. I think the idea that Callie and Marie were secret agents, while predictable in 1, was kind of nice, and it turned them from just news anchors to actual characters.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a predictable trope, but it worked. Yeah. That being said, I think Pearl and Marina have way more character, way more interesting story, and they're way more actually involved in the final boss fight. Like the Squid Sisters sing a song in the first game, and in 2, Marie shoots like a single shot, and then the music affects Octavio, and even though he gets harder in the final phases of each fight. So yeah, sure.
Yeah. Because
meanwhile, Off the Hook is the literal reason you can beat Octo Expansion in the first place. So, Pearl and Marina have much bigger of an effect on the story. I would say they have more music. I would say they have much more interesting story. I still think the Squid Sisters are good in every aspect. I think they're both great idol groups, but I think Off the Hook is just better.
Yeah, and Octo Expansion really just like, I don't know if I'd say carries, but that's low-key kind of what I want to say.
I mean,
Octo Expansion does kind of like
it does, because they're not even in the base single player.
Yeah.
I mean, if Octo Expansion didn't exist, they have nothing.
Yeah,
so,
they really don't.
Yeah.
Now, for me personally, like when I made the thing, I was judging them mostly off of like just the group itself, right? Like Marina obviously is my favorite idol. You know, there's a bunch of reasons. I love my Melanin Queens, you feel me? But you know, anyways, right? Anyways, so I'm gonna certainly like do enjoy Marina, but I find Callie and Marie like more consistent. And then there's Pearl, giant forehead Pearl.
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm not rocking with that. You know, so that's the green I added on him. But when Kara had mentioned lore, like I stepped back and I really
I mean, sure, you can criticize the looks, that's a bit subjective, whatever, but it's like what matters is the story. What do they bring to the table by existing? Like, what does it add to the story? And they both add a lot, but Pearl and Marina add way more, especially with Octo Expansion in terms of actually affecting the world. And I hope for 3 we get to see more of all of them, because I think all of them we could see more of. But
I believe for 3 we're probably gonna get another like DLC, because we don't see anything of Agent 3 or Off the Hook.
Now, like with that thing, like for 3, like low key kind of, because like we're seeing Callie, Marie, and Octavio for the 3rd time, like in the last 6-7 years. I low key feel like they're scared to like explore outside of their comfort zone. But I mean, if it works, then it works. But like, I would have preferred to see something new more. But you know, I guess it is what it is. It is what it is. All right.
I guess going off that, we could compare the single players.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Because that's pretty related. And I mean, I think we all have the same argument, which is Splatoon 2 single players copy paste, but slightly worse than Splatoon 1's.
So bad.
However, Octo Expansion exists.
Octo
Expansion is also $20. So I think the question is, Octo Expansion is the best single player, but is it that much better than Splatoon 1 to the point where the $20 still means it's a better single player experience?
That's true.
And that's a hard argument, but I would say yes. Octo Expansion has just so much fucking content. There's like more than 80 levels, and most of which you can play with multiple different weapons. A ton of lore and story. You get to unlock Octolings as a playable character, a bunch of pieces of gear, the Octo Shot. There's just so much content in Octo Expansion. It's one of the best single player expansions out there, and so even with the $20, I would give it to 2.
Most certainly.
I'd say it is more than
really
worth
crazy.
it. Yeah.
Octo Expansion just carries. It carries too.
Yeah, like it's way too good. So
yeah, I'd give that to Octo Expansion as well. And like we're two Octo. See, I'm not because like now I'm like, well, yeah, accounting for Octo Expansion, it's like 2 really does get a huge boost in a lot of these categories, and it's just like, yeah, like a lot of the stuff that they added, of course, while behind the paywall, is still really good regardless. So.
Yeah, like any category you talk about, if it includes Octo Expansion stuff, just immediately gets
The only reason why Splatoon 2 doesn't win like the meta game, whatever. You know, if Octo Expansion could like actually affect like the game,
meta,
actual meta game, it probably would make it win too. And I mean, you know, it's just insane. It's insane. But yeah, shout out to Octo Expansion. We love it.
I guess it just leaves us with the aesthetic. Oh wait, and I forgot features.
Now, features is unfair. I don't know why he had that category.
Yeah,
that's messed up.
Features is really simple. Splatoon 2 has more, and the biggest thing is the UI. You couldn't see people's specials at the top of the screen, like when they had it.
True.
You see their weapons. You couldn't see their gear. Spectator, like, there's no point arguing this.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's any time to be wasted on this. Like,
yeah.
2 is I think UI is probably the biggest region that Splatoon 2 steps up from 1, mostly because 1 has jack shit. So, yeah, I mean, okay, now we can get aesthetic.
Alright,
I have no strong preference one way or the other, so I'll leave that up to you two.
I believe 2 drastically like improved upon the overall aesthetic of the world in general, right? Like for example, look at the hubs, like just the sheer difference. I feel like the hub for 2, it's better design wise. Now I don't like the hub for 2 to like explore and be in.
It's a
I
hallway.
definitely do like how it looks. Yeah, it's literally just
it is a hallway. Yeah.
It looks good, but it sucks to be in, and that's my main issue with the square. The plaza is much better to be in, but it doesn't look as good. So it has the aesthetic, right? 2 has the aesthetic that 1 doesn't have. There's better gear by far in 2, right? There's more customization options in 2. You can really like be your own for 2, and you can't do that for 1 in many more ways than 1. So I definitely would personally give it to 2.
Yeah. Like for the aesthetic, like when I think about that, it's just like, well, yeah, they did add a bunch of new stuff. I also think about how like the game like visually is far upgraded from that of 1. So like it's kind of like, wow, like, and I'll constantly say like maybe people would like give 1 a little bit more respect had it have looked as good as 2 did and like played the exact same way, but that's just a me thing. But
it's also like maps, because the maps are a lot more beautiful in 2. They're not designed as well, most certainly not. But
yeah, but the visuals are really. I think both stages look good, but Splatoon 2 looks way better visual wise.
So good. Yeah. It's just eye candy.
There's terrible maps, but hey, at least they look good, like.
Exactly. That's what I used to tell my team. Like I hate like more than half the maps in this game, but damn, I can look at Albacore forever.
Yeah. All right, and what else? That is feature.
I do believe that's it. Yeah.
All right. So overall conclusion, right? We do have kind of. Oh, never mind. I'm looking now. I'll try to see. I'm about to like be unfair, be like minus Octo expansion, but nah, I ain't gonna do that. But yeah. I mean, overall conclusion. Actually, maybe we should do both. Do y'all think that Octo expansion carries Splatoon 2 in this comparison?
Oh hell yes!
Empty. It was so empty.
Literally the bottom. Okay, out of the bottom 4 sections, Splatoon 2 won 5 sections, and 4 of them are because of Octo expansion.
Yeah.
UI and features are the single thing Splatoon 2 wins on its own.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's carried.
Splatoon 2, hey, y'all heard it here, bro. Splatoon 2 is carried by Octo expansion. That is the objective truth. Y'all gonna have to hold that. No, but Splatoon 1, I will say that like as a game, I would much rather like enjoy playing Splatoon 1. But as like, a game experience, Splatoon 2, again, yeah, of course, hugely in part because of Octo Expansion, is the much preferable experience with everything that I'd say except like the gameplay itself, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense. I can agree with that. I can get behind that.
All right. So is that's y'all overall conclusions?
I mean, yeah, I think what's important. I think like a lot of people are gonna hate how much we bashed 2 here, but it's like I think 2 did a lot of steps in the right direction. There were definitely a lot of positive things that were added, and Octo Expansion is fucking fantastic. So it's like
really good.
I appreciate a lot of what Splatoon 2 did. I think it's a lot of things that were difficult to put in. So I think Splatoon 2 as a game made a lot of progress for the series. It just didn't go that smoothly.
Exactly.
And I mean, Splatoon 1 was also in many ways like too extreme in one direction to really work for the series. Like a sequel would have to change things like you are. So I mean, I think it's just gonna be. I think 2 is still important, but I think so many things that 2 does well will just shine so much more in 3. Like especially the weapon stuff I mentioned, like the depth and things that they have. I think 3 needs to find a good middle ground. Like specials need to have more counterplay than they did in 1, but and way more than they did in 2. Main weapons need to be better. Maps need to have places to move. There needs to be an actual single player. So, I mean, I
do think it's gonna like give all.
Like even though I'd say 1 is a better game, I think 3 still needs to go for a more middle ground than trying to be Splatoon 1 with minor additions.
Yeah.
That don't get me wrong on that. So I mean, on the overall experience though, I mean, I think Splatoon 1 is the better game. I still think Splatoon 2 is a good game. And I think Octo Expansion is absolutely worth your money, and you should go buy it.
Definitely.
Go run up that.
If you're in 2021 and you,
I hope Nintendo one day makes Octo Expansion like a solo purchasable thing for like $20 or something. I think that'd be a great idea for anyone who doesn't want to get into Splatoon 2 at this point. But I think it's great. And go play Octo Expansion.
Just go play it, man.
Go get off Splatoon 2 multiplayer and go play Octo Expansion so you can have a fun experience. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that's my conclusion.
Yeah. All right then. I guess that's it then. Thank y'all all for watching. Thank you, Champ. Thank you, Chara, for pulling up for this debate. Negus had to go early, but I'm gonna leave links to all of their channels and stuff, their Twitters and stuff in the description and on the screen and stuff like that. Yeah. So that is the end of this. That's the end. Peace.
Thanks for watching.
Yes, sir.